The year is 2005. You repelled the Covenant as the one and only Master Chief. You stormed the beaches of Normandy on D-Day after accepting the Call of Duty. You've even dealt with countless 12-year-olds telling you how they've slept with your mom in online Xbox lobbies. Video games were hitting a cultural peak. They aren't just something that nerds play anymore. They're starting to become mainstream. The industry will be rapidly changing over the next decade. And this is the story of the 30%. If you were born in the 90s like me, you probably remember begging your parents to go to the video game store. There was this place called Game Crazy connected to a Hollywood Video right by my house. The people who worked there were super friendly, loved what they did, and were really helpful at helping you choose what games you wanted. It was a great way to kick off my love for video games. However, in the year 2005, everything began to change. The Xbox Live Marketplace burst onto the scene as the first mainstream digital distribution store. Instead of having to get your parents to go take you on a trip to go get a new game, they could instead just give you their credit card and you could buy something from that. This would not only shape the future of the video game industry, but it would also heavily change how companies are doing things on the back end. Physical copies are expensive to distribute. Not only does it cost a few dollars to create a box and cartridge or disc, you also have to pay a retail storefront money to actually put your game on their shelves. And don't forget the licensing fee to the console manufacturers. These costs usually ran for about 10 to 15% in licensing, as well as an additional 20 to 25% to the retail store for stocking your game on their shelves. All in all, you would lose about 30 to 35% of the net sale of your game just on these fees alone. But what if you don't need to make a physical game? Or stock it in stores for that matter? Developers could be making 90% profit just paying those licensing fees and then distributing the game digitally. Well, that's how things should work. But in reality, corporate greed always has its hands on everything. Obviously, Sony, Microsoft, and Steam thought of this same fact. Now, to be fair, they would have to do more than just the licensing they did in the past. You need to create a backend and pay for servers to distribute digital downloads. For this reason, it would be totally fair for them to take a few more percentage than they have in the past. So that's what they did. They bumped this fee up to 20%, everyone lived happily ever after, and the gaming industry has thrived ever since. Oh, whoops, did I say 20%? I mean, they artificially inflated it to 30% and are hamstringing developers for as much as they can. You see, when a few companies own a monopoly on an industry like this, they can charge as much as they want until the entire industry's back starts breaking and the whole thing falls apart. They figured developers were already losing 30% with physical distribution, so why not just keep that number the same and put the rest of it in our pocket? While Microsoft was the first one to do this with the Xbox Live Marketplace, Sony and Steam were not far behind in the same year or in 2006 shortly after. These companies could clearly see what a cash cow this change could be. Everyone was scrambling to make a good storefront as quickly as possible. To do this, consoles were being sold at the actual cost of the hardware or even losses in some cases. They knew it was all about getting as many users as possible because they would make their money back extremely fast on these fees. If you want a real example of just how profitable this is, take a look at the new Nintendo Switch 2 game pricing. They know how much more they can gouge developers on digital copies, so they're trying to phase out physical copies by literally making them more expensive. While this did lead to the beginning of indie gaming, which is awesome, not having to deal with physical distribution means just about anyone can make a game as long as you can get it on one of these storefronts. Indie developers would quickly be shocked by these fees and begin complaining about how much these companies were actually taking from them. A lot of you have probably heard of this 30% number thanks to the Epic Games lawsuit with Apple over the past many years. You see, Apple likes to think of their phones much like a game console. You're only allowed to put what they tell you can put on there. Third-party apps and games are just simply not allowed. They will claim this is for security and other reasons, but it's simply just to make more money. If everything everyone always spends on iPhone software has to have that 30% cut taken out, that is a ridiculous revenue maker for Apple. While distributors like itch.io have existed for over a decade now, Epic has actually been one of the first mainstream ones to change this 30% cut. They take an 88-12 revenue split. This is pretty close to the split that a company needs to survive. Taking less than that really would start to be hard to make a profit at all. In my opinion, I could see up to 20% even being fair. There is effort and maintenance costs in building and maintaining these digital distribution stores. Servers are not free even if they are pretty dang cheap nowadays. And being able to have millions of users already on a platform is worth a good chunk of money in itself. The problem is that these platforms are so filled with crap nowadays that just putting your game on there will get zero eyes on it. You still need to spend mass money on advertising, making YouTube videos about your game, doing anything you can to just get people's eyes on your project. Even if it's the best game in the world, if you do nothing to advertise it, people will not be playing it. The industry has quietly tried to hide this 30%. While many developers speak about it, it's hard to get a lot of eyes on the topic, and consumers just care about having an easy place to download and play their games. It would be awesome if consumers could band together and actually go use a different platform, but we all know that's not realistic, and the majority of people just simply don't care. At least the cracks in the castle that this industry has built up are finally starting to show. Steam now offers developers who sell over $1 million in sales a reduced rate, which is strange to me that it's reduced for bigger games, not smaller ones, but hey, who am I to say anything? Xbox and PlayStation are still as closed down as ever, so those probably don't have any hope of ever changing. And Apple has finally been forced to allow some third-party app downloads. In another 10 to 20 years, I could see this completely changing, and I really hope it does. It would make it a lot easier for the small groups of game developers. I'm talking the teams of like 5 to 10 people who work on some of these indie games, who actually get a pretty big smash hit to continue making their company successful. We see so many small companies simply run out of money while working on their next project, and it's sad to see. Keep this in mind next time you're using some janky third-party client that a game made for itself. They aren't making you do that because they think their client is better and they want you to use it. They're doing it because it keeps the money for the studio. The more we accept this practice and encourage developers to do this, it puts pressure on distribution platforms to actually make a fair deal with developers. We live in a world where so many industries have red tape and middlemen that you just don't see a lot of the money of whatever you do. The next time you're gonna buy a game on Steam, remember what you learned today. See if you can buy it somewhere else, a place that actually rewards developers more than taking 30% of their hard-earned money. Anyone who watched this video to the end, I appreciate you. You're awesome. More editing went into this video than I normally do, and let me know if you want to hear more of these behind the scenes of the whole game development industry kind of videos. I don't think a lot of people talk about this stuff, and I think it's really important. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Have a great rest of your day, and I appreciate you again for watching all the way to the end.